Yeah. We won't be by our backs. We got it.
Nice. No problem. Perfect.
Sisters, family. 90 minutes. 90 minutes. So I got in my mind. For some reason, it feels like it's 11.
Reminds me. Who was talking about? Oh, everybody was talking.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Are you guys ready to roll?
We're ready to roll running.
Yeah. Is anybody sitting there? He is. I don't know whether yeah. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm very happy to meet and introduce Paul Condon. Dr. Condon and his partner, John McBransky, have written this book, How Compassion Works, a step-by-step guide to cultivating well-being, love, and wisdom, with practices drawn from Buddhism, attachment theory, and cognitive science. I've been reading this book. It is wonderful. I highly recommend it. It's a great integration of science, social psychology, as well as Buddhist tradition and other religious traditions that talk about compassion. Let's see, which ones do that? Well, he'll tell you more about that as we go. Dr. Condon did his undergraduate work at Gonzaga, and he got his doctorate at Northeastern University in Boston, which is where he met Dr. McBransky in Boston. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Condon.
Thank you, Mike.
Glad to have you here. He's also, by the way, I want to leave about this, he is a professor, associate professor in the psychology department right here in Ashland at Southern Oregon University. So we know where you live.
Yeah, just down the street. Well, thanks for coming on this Sunday, and thanks to Mike for the invitation to be here and for everybody who put in the effort to organize this. So I took some liberties, and I decided, I was thinking about what did I want to call this talk, and this came to me, Discovering a Compassionate Reality. And this is meaningful to me. This is something that I think we can tune into in the present, in our lives, and in this world in a very immediate and fresh way. And that might feel, maybe you're already feeling a little skeptical about that in our current moment in the world. And I think this graphic kind of captures it. And are you able to see?
Oh, really? He's really got it.
Somebody read it to us?
I'll be using the slides actually, so if I don't know if you'd like to move to a different table to be able to see the slides, because I'll be using them. We can take our time getting comfortable here.
Hey, could you read the caption for us?
Yeah.
She did.
So those, because you're big. Oh, trying to feed you.
Okay. Okay, so now that we're comfortable, start again. So it's a comic and it says, I want to be in the moment, just not this moment. Yeah, so I think that captures sentiments for a lot of people. Again, though, I think there's, from the perspective of contemplative traditions and spiritual traditions, we can tap into a sense of a sacred reality or a dimension of our being that is compassionate and is joyful and happy in the moment. And so we're going to explore that possibility today through the lens of contemplative practice and also a little bit of science. So I think it'd be helpful to start with a short, brief practice that helps us to just start to sense into that from an experiential side of things. Can you hear me okay in the back? Yeah? All right. So for the first thing we'll do, we're going to use the sound of the bell as support for practice. And there's a key distinction that I want to make that's, I think, important that runs through the theme of what we'll be doing today. So I think for most of us, we've been educated in ways where we think that the way in which we learn is through our effort, working hard, through discipline, trying to make things happen. And of course that's important, but with the bell, we're going to challenge that mindset. And instead of trying to get our minds to focus on the sound of the bell, we're going to just let the quality and feeling of the bell help draw us into it. So it's kind of a subtle distinction, but quite important. Does that basically make sense? Not trying to get our minds to do anything or perform anything, but simply sort of noticing the sound and releasing or resting into it. I find with to work with students a lot in the university, this distinction is quite important because people come to meditation with this sense of finding it very difficult, that they can't do it. It's hard to do it. But this sense of learning to relax and release into the sound helps to kind of cut through or challenge that need to perform or accomplish anything within meditation. So let's just try it out here and see how the sound goes. Can you hear it okay? Yeah. So starting, it all looks like you're doing this already, kind of sitting in a relaxed, supported posture for meditation. Eyes can be open or closed, whatever feels more supportive for you. And we just let the sound draw us into it, not trying to make anything happen, but relaxing into the sound, letting it bring you into it more and more. You might have already noticed the mind beginning to feel distracted a bit. Maybe other noises happening, like the traffic in the background, or maybe the mind is just starting to think about something else, somewhere you'd rather be, some discomfort you notice in the body, anything that distracts you. So that's just part of the process that happens. And then let the sound of the bell draw you back. So the distraction is not a failure or a problem, you're just noticing and then letting the sound draw you back. So let's try that again. Trying to make anything happen, not trying to meditate on the bell, just Simply letting the sound draw you into it more and more, as if releasing into the bell. Letting the mind come to rest in the felt sense of things, felt sense of the bell. Let that continue with whatever sound is just naturally occurring in your space. Distant sound of traffic. Sound of the water boiling. Humming of lights. Whatever is occurring can help draw you into the present more and more. Okay, so thank you. So I'd like to pose a question about that brief practice. From the moments before we started, we were kind of getting settled and getting comfortable. So from the moments before we did the bell exercise, or maybe some of you were just arriving, chatting with friends. So the moment just before the bell practice, and then to within that experience, did you notice any kind of shift in the mind? Could you describe that in just a brief way? What did you notice?
Feeling calmer,
Feeling calmer,
breathing slowing down.
breathing slowing down. Yes.
I felt it in my body, I felt my body relax.
You felt your body relax. It was very much an embodied experience. Yes, great. Anybody else?
Felt focused.
Focused.
Centered.
Centered. Great. Maybe one or two more. Anything else you noticed? Yes.
Really, mindset, releasing mindset, letting qualities of experience draw into them, letting be, allowing, mind like the sky, and releasing goals, not that last one I don't know.
Not meditating.
Yeah.
So you could feel some of that, a sense of allowing, releasing,
Yeah.
sense of the mind like the sky. Yes, great. Just from the sort of brief thing with the bells, wonderful. Maybe one more. Anybody else? So this is really wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And the last comment that you shared there's actually something quite powerful about it in that what the Bell exercise is revealing or helping us to discover is a kind of underlying capacity from within our own awareness that is healing, that is a sense of joy, a sense of warmth, a sense of compassion. And so even this sense of wanting to stay there forever is a kind of powerful comment or powerful recognition that it's something that is a place where we would like to stay or to be. So that sort of gets back to the title of why what I put at the front of the talk is the sense of discovering a compassionate reality from contemplative traditions, including Buddhism, including Christianity, and many other traditions throughout the world. There is a sense of the sacred or compassionate, enlightened dimension to our being that is immanent, is available here and now. And we could get a little bit of a taste of that just with the support of the bell. So I'll go through some slides to unpack this a little bit further. Here's a quote this is from a Tibetan text and teacher, Gaurav Dorje, from the text that's called The 3 Words That Strike the Vital Point. Awareness itself is the mind, uncontrived, without maker or owner. Recognize that awareness and confusion dissolves. So we could get a little bit of a taste of that with the bell too. It's not that the bell is putting something into us, but simply through the support of the sound is in a way interrupting our ordinary flow of perceptions and narratives and stories and feelings and discomforts. It's interrupting our sense of identification with all that and allowing a quality of our being to come forth more fully. Awareness itself, the mind. So this is a Tibetan worldview and Tibetan way of making sense of things. But in my work as a psychological scientist and professor, I'm very interested in how different traditions and different resources throughout the world also make sense of this kind of underlying reality. So we can look at many different resources from the world. Tibetan traditions make a distinction between patterns of mind or thoughts, motivations, goals, and so forth, what they would call expressions of the mind, which is sem, and also semni, which is the underlying nature of mind, or awareness itself. And when we tap into or look into awareness and rest there, then patterns of perception can release and unwind. We can sort of then be in this place of awareness or healing or calm more reliably or forever. Other traditions in the world have other ways of making sense of things. So in Christian traditions, I recently learned this phrase, imago Dei, which means the image of God, meaning that our own existence or human nature is in unity with God, or a reflection of some sacred dimension, the ground of nature. There is this perspective within neuroscience that I really appreciate, would suggest that humans, in particular, the brain evolved to be in the sort of environment in which the human brain evolved was within social environments and social contexts. Our brain actually expects to be in caring relationships, and when we are surrounded by supportive others, the brain processes threat more efficiently. The body recovers from stress more quickly. We expect to be in relationship, in caring relationship. It's like our biological nature. We expect that. There's many indigenous traditions throughout the world that also make sense of this in different ways. So in indigenous North America, for example, the Apache tribe has a term called usen, which means something rather than nothing. So when we release our identifications with thoughts and perceptions, it's not that we're releasing into a sense of nothingness, but rather into a kind of sense of something, some life force or sense of vitality or creativity, something that energizes the world. The Lakota tribe has this phrase, Mitakuye Oyasin, all my relations, or we are all related, a sense of interconnection with everything, including the world, the natural environment. And African traditions, Ubuntu, I am, because we are, a sense of non-duality in terms of how we are related and interconnected with each other. So there seems to be, there's differences and particularities across traditions, so they're not all necessarily the same, but there's a kind of shared underlying pattern of some realities or compassionate nature that we can tap into that's available to us here and now. And this is the focus of the book that Mike mentioned at the beginning, co-authored John Lekransky. And I put this image here on purpose because there's these three interlocking ovals, or circles in a way, and there's some significance to the three interlocking circles. So the book goes through a series of practices of how to kind of make sense of what we did with the bell, but also to deepen in that and take that further. So one thing that happens, the first stage, is relying on some kind of external resource that helps us to tap into our own compassionate nature. So the bell is the external resource in this example that helps initiate the process of just interrupting and beginning to notice qualities of warmth or care. The second circle, or second mode, then, is to, once we've noticed the qualities that some of you named, like calm, focus, centered, releasing, allowing, a sense of warmth, we're learning to settle into that from within our own being, recognizing that the bell isn't actually putting anything into you, but it's simply helping evoke or draw out some dimension of you. And then the third circle is pointing to the fact that we can learn to stabilize in that sense of being and extend it outward to others. Extend care, well-being, calm, a sense of sacredness. That can be the ground in which we then relate to others in the world. So those are the sort of three stages represented by those circles. And the book goes through a trajectory of practices to help us learn to uncover this compassionate reality and stabilize in it more and more. So I'd like to draw next on some psychology to unpack this a little bit further. Is the basic idea making sense so far, the sort of three modes of care and how the bell helped us to sense into that a little bit? Okay, great. So my background is, my professional background is as a psychology professor, and through the course of my professional study, I learned about something called attachment theory. And attachment theory suggests that we come into the world with the biological preparedness for caring relationships. And as infants, we have the expectation to be in caring relationships, and will engage in behaviors to maintain proximity to care, because that's what ensures our survival into adulthood. And this also seems to be something that's particularly unique in the human species, is that infants can quickly establish a sense of connection with multiple adults, not just one caregiver. You might even notice this the next time you see an infant or a young child out in the world. They will look at you and they'll even have a sense of like connection and smiling. They can very quickly establish a connection with an adult. It's part of the evolved propensity to be in care so that they can survive. There's also this really beautiful book on anthropology and human caregiving that shows that humans flourish when their care for an offspring is supported by a wider community. So not just the mother and the child, but mothers and others is the name of the book. So all of this suggests that care and compassion is part of our birthright and part of our natural capacities, something we can tap into from a purely evolutionary and psychological perspective. The difficulty or problem is we sometimes, for various reasons, both our own upbringing, our life experience, as well as what's happening in the wider social and cultural context that we're embedded in, we get disconnected or separated from our sense of compassion. There are certain barriers that might pop up and make it more difficult to be in caring relationship to ourselves, to others, to the wider world, and so forth. And these barriers also get incorporated into our attempts to train compassion, or to be more compassionate. So I'd like to show you some data from a research study. I'll come stand over here for this one. So this was a study that some social psychologists did a few years ago, and they had people try to meditate, learn like a breathing meditation, and then they looked at how that meditation affected their helping behavior. Were they more pro-social? Did they become more kind, essentially, afterward? And they, prior to the meditation, primed the participants, meaning they gave them a sort of brief exposure to a kind of way of thinking about themselves as independent, like me, myself, kind of focusing on the myself as an entity, or a sense of interdependence, a kind of connected and relational way of thinking about the self, like we, ours, us, and so forth. And so the fascinating thing is that when people were primed with the independent way of thinking, the meditation then actually